got to remember that we play in the NFL, so the potential of injury to a 40-year-old quarterback is highly likely playing in this league. And you have no contingency plan other than Zach Wilson. Robert Saleh ain't making that decision. That's Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas. This was so above his head on how this organization was being run when it came to getting Aaron Rodgers. Now, could he go into the office and fight and say, hey, we need a backup quarterback just in case Aaron Rodgers don't go work out?
Right.
Remember, they demoted this kid the third string last year. He was the third string quarterback at a time last year. They knew what was happening if they lost Aaron Rodgers. They, meaning Joe Douglas and Woody Johnson. And they decided, like we all applauded them for, I'm going to put all my chips in the table and I'm going to bet on Aaron Rodgers. Well, the worst thing happened. The catastrophic happened, and they are not prepared for it. And if we want to blame Robert Saleh, if we want to blame Zach Wilson, first of all, what we blaming Zach Wilson for? What is Zach Wilson doing that we didn't expect Zach Wilson to do? We expected Zach Wilson to look this bad. We expected him not to be ready to play. And let me go to the last point. They didn't hire Nathaniel Hackett or bring. You bring up coaching all the time, and we have issues. Me and you have sat on this show and talked about Cliff Kingsbury. Let me ask you this. Bring Stephen A. up on the camera. I know he like to say this. Let me ask you this. Last year in Denver, what did Nathaniel Hackett do to get a job as an OC right after he was fired?
Marketing himself as the guy that was tight with Aaron Rodgers.
And who do you think made that decision, Stephen A?
Aaron Rodgers.
You think Robert Saleh made that decision?
No. I'm not challenging that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, everything that has happened with this quarterback situation has been above this man's head. But he is the one that got to trot out there at press conferences and talk about the quarterback situation. Now, was he all in for it? Yes. Who wouldn't be all in for getting Aaron Rodgers? But the fact that they did not have a contingency plan and now they got to go sign Trevor Siemian to be a backup plan for Zach Wilson is absolute front office malpractice. And that's who the blame should go to. Joe Douglas and Woody Johnson. That's the blame. It ain't Saleh.
Well, first of all, a couple of things. Number one, I really appreciate you sitting in that seat and then asking for that camera and asking for me to show
I
up
wanted to
on
see
the
your face
because you just shows that you're learning. You're learning,
Yeah.
and I really, really appreciate that. That's very, very important to know. I'm not disagreeing with the culpability that falls on the shoulders of Douglas. What I am saying is this. You got Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall, okay? You got a running game. You got Garrett Wilson. You got familiar targets with Lazard and Cobb to Aaron Rodgers, not necessarily to Zach Wilson. You can point out how Tim Boyle is your backup quarterback. You've got enough of a voice in Douglas's ear to make sure you can sit up there and put Marcus back on the screen so I can see him when I say this.
Oh, my God.
It is not beyond the pale to imagine or to require Saleh to say to Douglas, this is football. Injuries do happen. We got to get a backup in case he gets hurt because Zach Wilson's not that dude. That's number one. Number two, I'm not saying that you go out there in a press conference, doggy, and you excoriate Zach Wilson. What I'm saying is, remember, long before there was Mad Dog Radio, and I know Mad Dog Radio is valuable, and I know that's big time, and I know it's your channel, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. Mad Dog Radio, Channel 82, Sirius XM. I get it. But long before that, there would have been no Mad Dog channel if it wasn't for the greatness of Mad Dog Russo with Mike Francesa in New York City. Mike and the Mad Dog for years. Start from 1987, okay? That was in New York City. You know the New York fan base better than anybody. I was born and raised in the streets of New York, and I don't know the New York fan base better than you because of how many years you were doing sports talk radio in that city, in the media capital of the world. You know good and damn well you cannot spit in people's face and tell them it's raining. You cannot sit up there with bravado and emphasis and talk about how Zach Wilson is your guy. He's our guy, blah, blah, blah. We're all in. They're not all in. And when you lie to people like that, Swagu, is what I'm talking about. You're talking about from a football decision-making perspective. No argument there. You're 1,000% correct. I'm not refuting that. Right. Where I'm getting on Saleh is that he's walking in front of the cameras to the microphones, and he is lying to people's face. And not only that, your own team is looking at you like, come on, coach, you a bit extreme with this. This brother ain't ready. It's hurting all of us. You cannot do that and survive in New York, doggy. Tell me I'm wrong.
Again, they're trying to win games. What do you want to do with the kid? What, play Tim Boyle? I mean, you're making it sound like there's an alternative.
You went and got Trevor Siemian for a reason.
Bit.
Trevor Siemian, who's, by the way, his QBR is 81, which is 13 points better than Zach Wilson. He's the one that succeeded Peyton Manning. You got to try something. I'm only talking, doggy. I'm only saying, you cannot talk to New York fans like that. You do know that, right? Am I right about that, doggy?
I understand what you're saying.
Real quick before we go, I think they need to go YOLO. I'm talking about football. And what I mean is, let Zach Wilson go out there and throw 7 interceptions. But the way that they're playing with this kid right now, the way that they trying to play around him and protect him.
You can't win.
You can't win like that. Right. So you might as well try to go for the gusto and see if something happens good.
Go on first down.
Now, I blame Robert Saleh for that because you can say in a game, hey, man, throw the football. We going to throw it to Garrett Wilson 12 times. Nathaniel Hackett, figure it out. We going to make sure he pushes the ball down the field to Allen Lazard. My issue lies with that. But Stephen A., again, when we start talking about Robert Saleh coming up to a podium and saying what really needs to be said as opposed to what he's saying right now, that's because of the owner and the general manager.
But I'm not I'm not saying he should say what needs to be said because I understand that every truth ain't meant to be told. I'm just saying stop lying.
Yeah.
We're going to do what we can.
I don't know what he's supposed to say.
In other words, he's our guy. We completely believe in him. We're here. Stop. Okay. Stop it. We all know it's a lie.
What 3-0 team do you have the most doubt about?
For me, it would be the Philadelphia Eagles. Right now, when I look at their offensive coordinator, Steichen he's gone. He's the new head coach in Indy. Clearly, their running game is stout, but passing game-wise, it's problematic. We haven't seen Jalen Hurts return to what we saw him as last season. We certainly haven't seen A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams exploited to the max, along with Dallas Goedert, I might add, and I think that's a bit problematic for them. So, I mean, right now the Eagles rank 9th in passing offense. They ranked 9th in passing offense last season. They ranked 23rd so far this year. So I think that's problematic because, listen, you're not going to beat the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers, along with various others, potentially, or Detroit, or anybody else for that matter, if all you're doing is running the football because passing the football is so problematic for you. I don't think it's a big problem. I don't think it's a problem that they won't overcome. But if we're comparing the 3-0 teams with the most doubt, and you're comparing that to Miami, San Francisco, I would say that at the moment, the Philadelphia Eagles are the ones with the big question mark, but just compared to those two other teams.
I would say Miami, Stevie. Number one, Philadelphia's got a winning culture, playing the Super Bowl last year. Number two, Shanahan, San Francisco. They've been a big-time team, so I have confidence that they will keep it together. Miami's got no tradition whatsoever, not a great tradition of winning. Nobody knows that much about McDaniels. Done a great job. The play calling is wonderful, but still, in the heat of the moment, how is he going to respond? You have to worry about Tua's health. I understand that he's played great, and he throws a beautiful ball, and they've scored 70 points, and boy, oh boy, they're fun to watch. But you have to wonder about his health. I don't worry so much about, obviously, Hurts' health. If, in fact, Purdy got hurt, you got Darnold there. That's a quarterback-friendly offense, and they have a horrendous home field. That is not a big home field advantage. Teams love going to Miami. Most of the fans there are like the other teams anyway. San Francisco, good. Obviously, Philadelphia, excellent home field. I don't necessarily believe that Miami home field, outside of the heat, is that intimidating. So, I mean, listen, they're playing great, fun to watch, could be a super team, but Tua could go. You never know. I mean, we thought he was going to retire last year at this time, and they have never won. It's been a long time since they've been good. So I'll say Miami.
Let me preface this by saying I think the 49ers are the best team in the NFC, but my doubt is when Brock Purdy has to do it outside of a level of comfort. This man, and I don't know if he ever will this season until it gets late. We see that with San Francisco a lot. They play so good, and they get close, NFC Championship or even to the Super Bowl, and then at some point it becomes about the quarterback. making plays. It doesn't become about Kyle Shanahan calling plays or them being in favorable situations. And I just haven't seen Brock Purdy yet in that game where he's going to have to drop back and throw it 45 times and be the catalyst for them winning. Christian McCaffrey is phenomenal. Offensive line is phenomenal. We know Kyle Shanahan is going to put him in great spots. We know this team is probably going to compete to either be the representatives in the Super Bowl or even have a chance to win the Super Bowl. But I want to see Brock Purdy in some adversity. And once I see him deliver in those moments, when everything around him is not kind of going so great like it has been since he starting, then I'll be clear on the San Francisco 49ers.
Here's why I disagree with you. I disagree with you because at some point your history has to tell you something. It may be a short window of history, but the fact is Brock Purdy is undefeated as a starter. He has something to do with them being undefeated. They're undefeated in the regular season since Christian McCaffrey has arrived. He has something to do with them being undefeated. I can't sit up there and look at that and say, I want to see when adversity hits, when in fact what has really, really happened is that, they've created the absence of adversity because of how they perform. And so when I look at them getting injured in the NFC Championship game, I'm like, wait a minute now. I don't have any reason to be concerned or have doubts about San Francisco based on what I've seen.
I got you. Let me ask you a question, like legitimate question. What has held the San Francisco 49ers back from winning Super Bowls?
Quarterback.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Brock Purdy can't. Just haven't seen him in that moment. It's just like, look, don't we expect every year for the
quarterbacks you haven't seen in those moments? I don't hear your doubts about them.
That's what I started the season talking about. If he can't deliver in moments, it's irrelevant to talk about Dak Prescott because I know that's where you're going.
Yeah,
it don't matter. This is about San Francisco, Philly, Dallas will be in the playoffs. They will make the playoffs. When we think about San Francisco and what has hindered them, Mad Dog, let me take you down.
Oh, I agree.
Memory lane.
Had the wide
Garoppolo
standards.
wide open in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Garoppolo sacked by Aaron Donald, throws an interception against Los Angeles.
Correct.
This is not about the San Francisco 49ers being good.
I think you made a good point.
And listen, here's the other thing, too. When it comes to the San Francisco 49ers, we give them a lot of grace because they have made NFC Championship. They have made the Super Bowl. But nobody ever asked the question, why haven't they won one? Nobody ever asked that question. The reason they haven't won one is because of quarterback play. It hadn't been the defense. It hadn't been the offensive play calling and Kyle Shanahan. It's been because when they get to a point where another team is putting pressure on them and it becomes about the quarterback, do they deliver? That's the only thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Brock Purdy can't do it. We just haven't seen him in that moment.
I don't know what Stephen A. was talking about. The answer is San Francisco or Miami. I mean, that's the answer. It's not Philadelphia, who played great on Monday night. You know their offense with Devontae Smith, the new kid they got, what's his name, who caught the touchdown pass of the night. He's very good. And A.J. Brown. Hurts is good. They steamrolled the Bucs.
Yeah.
Dallas lost, so they're in good shape in the NFC East. That was a ridiculous answer. Let me throw the Eagles. No, the answer is Miami or San Francisco. You centered on the San Francisco issue. I'm with you 100%. And you have to be a little worried about Tua and whether he can last 17
That's
games.
reality.
And for him to bring up the Eagles, who look good, they're 3-0, good start to their season, got to a Super Bowl last year, because you're worried about their passing game? Steve, you're better than that.